Hello and welcome back to Glastonbury Designs. What you see me doing here is checking off the list that I wrote for this car and making sure that I'm accomplishing all the things that I want to for this build. I'm blessed to share my hobby with you. So jumping right into the build, what we're doing here is we're going to paint the pulleys for the fan belt assembly silver. Eventually working my way all the way through it, as you'll see in a second. Now I went a little bit outside the norm when it comes to the engine block color. I wanted to paint this car in a way that matches the 1995 Yamaha Banshee. So that's a purple and a yellow theme. That's the reason for the engine block being the color that it is. We're going to paint up some of the paint the carburetors up here and get those installed. They're a nice addition. They come from MCV products along with that distributor that you can see down there pre-wired. I'm dealing with a couple things, as you can see and probably hear. Currently I'm getting over a head cold that's affecting my voice, and even with the magnifier I have a lot of trouble seeing. I do need to update my glasses and get a new prescription. Here we're going to start to install the plug boots. They're 90-degree boots, and they're going to direct the plug wire toward the distributor cap. Ends up being a real nice look. The holes for this have all been pre-drilled on top of the valve covers. And what I've done is I'm dropping them in, and then I'm going to use some of that Tamiya extra thin, and that glue flows nicely down around where the little gaps are, because the drilled holes are just a little bit bigger so that the plug boots can sit down in there. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and hit all of the plug boots with Tamiya rubber black. I ordered a lot of different black colors based off from a video that I saw in Craig's Corner, and I do feel like it's helped in improving my model building. This car is above and beyond in terms of build quality, better than any car that I've ever built, and that's my goal. To always improve my model building as I go. And there we are, giving you a look at the plug boots. They came out pretty good. And I'm going to begin to work on getting the starter installed. That does need to be turned around so that it faces correctly. And for this we went with the coil that came with the kit. It mates up nicely to that pre-wired distributor cap, and you'll see me utilize that a little bit here as we move through the video. And we're going to give you a little bit of a look at it. There's the coil on top. We got that starter in there correctly. And it's time to move forward with the next piece of this engine build. Doing a little test fitting of that header. That's going to get glued on, and then the other one is going to get put on a little bit afterwards. After we get the engine in, we're going to snake it up near the bottom. The definition for this model is it's very nice. It came out very well in terms of the mold quality. And I'm very happy with how this car is coming out. This engine is going to be looking good here shortly. We're going to test fit that engine into the frame, see how it looks. I'm going to look at it from a couple of different angles. And then we'll pull it out and move forward with the next part of the project and getting everything mounted up and secured in there for final assembly. Now for taking it back out, we're going to set it aside for a minute. I'm going to do a little bit of work on the drive shaft, get that set in place. I glue it at the rear end, and I just kind of set it in place up near the transmission. It took a little bit of fiddling around, but the drive shaft eventually did work. I think I had to turn it around because one end has a bigger pin or shaft than the other end. So it only works, as far as what I can tell, in one direction. That looks pretty good. So now we're going to go ahead and get that engine drop back down in there and glue it to the cross member where the transmission sits on and the two front engine mounts. I'm glad that glue didn't set up too quickly, because as you see, when I start to put that header in, we run into just a minor hiccup. As you can see, I like to view it from many different angles before I figure out that I'm actually happy with it. And there we go in from the bottom with that other header. It works out pretty easy. I do have to get the tweezers out and kind of push it around just a little bit, but overall it's a pretty simple, easy fit. And then we're on to the next part. Sort of getting a good view of the bottom of the car there. I'm pretty happy with how that looks. I tried to make the drive shaft look like it was made out of aluminum. I got all the rear end painted up. We've gone over that in another video. And those headers sit down in there perfectly. I do notice a little bit of light glare there. I do need that light, and I need the magnifying glass, so hopefully it's not affecting the video quality too bad for you guys as my viewers. If it is, then I do apologize. What I'm working on here is I tried to drill out the velocity stacks, or I believe they were stacks, for the top of this engine, and I ended up breaking them. So I robbed that set of air cleaners from an old Color Me Gone kit that's kind of smashed up that I have, and I'm sanding them down, and I drill out the centers, and I put in posts, because I also drill out the centers on the carburetor, both the carburetors, trying to make it, just give it a little bit more of a realistic look. Now, drilling out those carburetors is tricky because they're 3D printed, and that resin is very, very brittle. It does not like to drill. In fact, the first one that I drilled, I started to crack it a little bit, but I was able to recover it. So we're going to get that post drop down in there now. Use a little bit of that Gorilla Glue, and that holds it pretty good. The posts are just little pieces of clipped solder. You can probably see the solder over in the back there toward my my kit. When we get that post in place, I'm pretty happy with the spacing and how it's standing up. Then we move on to working on that other air cleaner and get that fit down so it'll sit on there properly. This is the process that I used when I made the first air cleaner fit. I know roughly about the size that I want to go. We're using 320 grit sandpaper, and I just sit there and work it. I show you a couple of passes, but I don't keep it on, the camera on the whole time, because it's, as you can see, there's a ton of work. It takes me like 15 minutes to sand one of these down. And then when I get it close enough to where it's thin, I go ahead and I work around the bottom of the cleaner to kind of just clip the rest of that lip off. You'll see it drop off here in a second. So there it is, it just falls off there, lands near the base of the lamp. So now we're going to do a couple of test fits, see how they sit on those posts. They do have to be turned just a little bit. I mean, the fitting is real tight. Then later on down the road, these get sprayed with the same color as the body color. My idea was that I would give the air cleaners, along with the body color, continuity across the top of the engine. On its own, not really sure how I feel about it, but I'm going to keep the body color on the top of the air cleaners, because that's what I'm ultimately looking for, is the continuity across the top of the engine. And the engine bay is painted the same color as the body color, that plum crazy purple. We're down to, we've got the distributor cap glued in, and I clipped off a little bit of the bottom of that post for the distributor cap so it sat in there properly. And now what we're doing is we're cutting ignition wire or plug wire to length. We're going to go ahead and use the tweezers and get them snaked inside those little boots. These boots are pre-drilled perfectly to fit the plug wire. Couldn't ask for a better fit. Oftentimes I deal with a little bit of indecision. I don't know what direction I want to go in. Ultimately what I ended up doing was I ended up working back and forth. These aren't in any type of firing order. They're just how it looked good to me. And so I go ahead and get it all glued up, working from one side of the end into the other. And then you'll see me hook the coil wire on, utilizing that kit coil. And I'm going to give you a look at it. I think it comes out pretty good. The final step here is we've just added on, at least for this video, we just added the glue, and we're going to go ahead and get that fan belt assembly in there. It does give me a little bit of trouble, but I'm trying to do it in a way that you're able to see it on video. So I'm almost working backwards to myself. And we get the fan in there, and I'll give you a look at it. The overall engine, I think, is probably the best engine I've ever made. I want to thank everybody who's followed along. I appreciate all my new subscribers. Just leave me a comment if you have anything that you want to add, or anything, questions or anything like that. I appreciate everyone who's followed along. And until we see each other again, everybody out there be safe, and everyone be blessed. Thank you for watching.